If you can use what your brain is telling you during a positive moment at one of the hardest and darkest moments, it can really help you remember that once the sun comes up and the day starts, things will feel different. Welcome to the Baby Sleep Connection, a podcast that explores baby sleep and more through the lens of attachment and development. I'm your host, Heather Boyd. I'm a mom of 3, an occupational therapist, and a certified infant and family sleep specialist. If you are a tired parent who wants to support your baby sleep holistically, keep listening as we delve into approaches that go well beyond the usual strategies of wake windows and bedtime routines. Your baby's sleep is connected with so much more. Hello, and welcome back to the Baby Sleep Connection podcast. Today's episode is 3 things I wish every new parent knew about sleep. And frankly, I could have named it 3 things I wish that I had known about baby sleep when I was first a parent, and second, because certainly the lessons kept on rolling in with each subsequent baby that I had. So if I could sit across from every new parent. The fact is it's every parent, because despite a second or third experience in parenting, the learning lessons are different and they are tough. It took me till like kiddo 3 to really lean in to understanding that sleep development was a wild ride that I was just hanging on for and supporting. I was not the lead role, my baby was. And so if I could sit across from you as a parent of a baby, as a parent who is struggling with your baby's sleep, here are the 3 things that I'd want you to hear before you dive down that rabbit hole of Google searches. Because I've been giving a lot of thought to this Google search idea. Sometimes it's phenomenal, right? We get so much information out of these searches that we have when we have a question. Or we could even talk about ChatGPT or AI and any of the searches that we're doing to look for answers. So often when we are looking to Google or ChatGPT, it's a problem. We're putting in a problem that we have. And problems beget problems, and we end up getting solutions that don't fit with the nuance of our family, and that focus on the problem, not so much the solution that's actually going to work for you. So if I could tell you these 3 things across from you, sitting at a table with tea or maybe coffee or matcha or, nourishing drink of choice these days, here is what they would be. The first would be that your baby is not broken. Night wakings are developmentally normal. We know that babies protectively and naturally wake up often. It's also natural for them to need comfort. It's not a flaw. It's a sign that your baby is looking for that co-regulation from you. It's a sign that your baby trusts you because they are looking to you for that comfort to get them through. But in addition to knowing that your baby's sleep is not broken, and let's put aside for the moment that there are babies and children and adults with parasomnias, with sleep disorders, with sleep apnea, obstructive sleep apnea that interferes with sleep, with minerals or key nutrients that are out of whack, out of balance, hormones as well. It's not your baby that's broken, even if those things are present. And a second point to this is you didn't break their sleep. I have had more parents than I wish coming to me saying that they think they broke their baby's sleep, that the baby was sleeping fine until they fill in the blank, went on vacation, changed bedtime, dropped a nap, moved baby into their own room, weaned. And so parents feel like, oh my gosh, I did something to break sleep, and they're riddled with guilt and shame and embarrassment that they did something that broke their baby's sleep. And the fact is, so often we are looking for patterns like A leads to B. And so if B is happening, if baby is all of a sudden waking up for long periods of time or waking up often or fighting a nap, we try to link it back to A. What's something that happened before that? It's us. We changed something. We went on vacation. How dare we kept them up too late for a family function? if you're doing it all the time, sure, that's going to impact sleep. But once in a while, when you know that in the grand scheme of things, it's the value of participating in that, it's not what broke sleep. We look for these patterns that aren't actually there, because the bigger, broader pattern that reinforces that it is not your baby's sleep that is broken and that you have not broken their sleep is that sleep will, in a non-linear way, ups and downs, move towards more mature sleep on its own. And part of that progress towards more mature sleep is less need for sleep over time. It's always, of course, less sleep than we want them to have, because when they're sleeping, we get a little bit of downtime, which is golden. But what happens often is we forget we're behind the 8 ball with this drop in sleep need. We get used to a certain cycle or pattern. We get comfortable for a period of time that naps are predictable, reasonably predictable length, reasonable time. Like we anticipate when these naps are going to be. We know when bedtime is going to happen. But as sleep develops, as their nervous system develops, as their brain develops, that sleep need drops. And we're often trying to get a lot more sleep out of babies than they actually need. So frequently, what happens when there is a challenge and we tie it to something that we have done or that a recent change that has happened, what we're forgetting is that when there is a drop in sleep need, we don't see it as a straight line. We often see it as all of a sudden there is this shift towards nap resistance or bedtime resistance or split nights. And so when we make that connection, we're forgetting that there is often this, I'll say, a revealing of a drop in sleep need all of a sudden. It's like taking steps upstairs. You could make it a slide. Well, actually, that's not going to work to go up. Let's go downstairs. You could turn your stairs into a slide. And every inch that you go down, you're dropping in elevation by the same amount. But the fact is, we don't treat stairs that way. They go in steps. And so your baby's drop in sleep needs often show up in steps, a big chunk or a big change, a big step down. And so often when we have something that's changed and then we see an impact on sleep, when really it's just the drop in sleep need that we're seeing, we're playing a little bit of catch up to say, okay, probably they need less daytime sleep or less nighttime sleep than before, and certainly less overall sleep in a 24-hour period. And so really, if you uncouple that connection of trying to find that pattern and thinking that it's your fault, or thinking that somehow your baby waking up regularly at night or needing comfort to fall asleep is a sign that sleep is not going the way it should, that's why it's so important to me that parents understand the landscape of sleep development. You may have heard me say this before, if we could treat sleep development more like walking as a milestone, where we know we're there to support it, but it unfolds in front of us as our baby is ready. So your baby's sleep is not broken. The second point that I would want to make if we were sitting across from each other right now is that you can do this sleep support, the way you lay out your day, the way you manage bedtime routines, you can do it your way. You do not need to follow one method or one system. There is no card-carrying membership in whatever parenting philosophy you have. Okay, well, that's not entirely true. There are memberships out there for particular parenting philosophies, but you are not required to carry one. You get to learn about the things that resonate with you, that fit with your philosophy as a parent, your gestalt as a parent, what feels right, and what's going to work best for your family and for your baby. And what that means is that you can get super excited about a particular approach. And I'm going to share a little side story here of when I discovered attachment parenting. It was like coming home. It was like I finally felt like I had something that fit right and felt right, even though I hadn't heard of it before. I was like super excited, very, I'm going to say almost evangelical about it. And I will say as well, that is very natural, that when we catch on to an idea that really deeply resonates, we want to shout it from the mountaintop. We want everyone to know about it. We think it's like the best thing since sliced bread. And that kind of excitement is also natural, but it lacks the nuance that we need to actually take information that's going to help us and a philosophy or approach or a method that's going to help us and make it our own. By making it your own, you're taking what you know fits well for you because it feels right, and what you know about your baby and what you know about how your family works. Like, what are the work shifts your spouse has? What is the layout of your house? What kind of support do you have from extended family? All of these things are not included in any membership or sleep philosophy or approach. You've got to really let go of the reins of signing up completely and 100% for one philosophy so that you can find something that works. I've joked with clients that there is no book that says, here's how to sleep parent your child, like with your child's name right built into the title. There is no book like that. You're writing the book with your baby, and there will be no other book like it on the planet ever, because there is no baby like your baby and there's no family like your family. So figuring out what actually feels right and works well for you is going to look different than everybody else. Now, that's not to say that when you find out about a new strategy that has worked for your friend or a new approach or a way of thinking about things, that you can't welcome it and fold it into what you are learning about and what you know about your baby and your family. Because frankly, sleep support is not an all or nothing thing. I'm going to bring up another example actually, because it's come up a lot this year, is a lot of support I'm providing to clients around weaning, night weaning. And there's this tendency, until we start unpacking and talking about it, to do one of two things. One is either full out refuse to consider night weaning at all, which I was there at one point. It didn't fit with the kind of quote unquote card carrying membership I had in attachment parenting. That's one side of it. So you dismiss it outright and don't reflect on whether, is this part of the natural unfolding of sleep development? It is. And does that mean you have a role in inviting it or supporting it or moving towards it when it's right for you? Absolutely, that is an option. But the other piece with this idea of night weaning, as an example, is that we think it's all or nothing. So we think that if we are going to open that Pandora's box of night weaning and have our membership to Attachment Parenting International ripped up, or Dr. Sears will kick us out of the 7 S's of attachment parenting. The fact is that it is not all or nothing. There is a patchwork of progress you can make towards shaping your day and your night to support your baby the best with the least amount of energy, angst, confusion, guilt, and frustration. And what that might look like, having supported a lot of families through this process over the past year, is to look at consolidating some of the feeds to particular times of night so you have a block of uninterrupted sleep. It might involve starting to layer other or habit stack other sleep associations like shushing, rocking, and patting so that they become more and more prominent and the nursing becomes less and less prominent or important. You're allowed to adapt things. And I think, again, when we find something that works, and it may be some of the things that I've covered on this podcast or a book that you've read or someone you're following on social media, and you get so excited about it that you forget that you get to take this and tailor it to your baby and your family. What is helpful to ask yourself is, what is needed by my baby right now? And what is it that I need to make this feel like it's working more smoothly? I always say more smoothly because parenting is not a smooth ride. There may, again, be portions of time where things are sailing along and we think we've got it figured out. But what can we do right now that makes this particular challenge, this real sticking point, whatever it is, and make it a little bit easier and move towards something that takes less cognitive thinking? Like, what kind of habits or routines can you put in place? If you want to talk about routines, go to last episode where I talk all about schedules, routines, and rhythms. But really ask yourself, what is needed here to make this easier, to make this work better? The last point I want to make is a really important one. It's that you deserve support too. So often, all of our focus is on supporting our baby that we dismiss or forget completely that our needs, when they are met, allow us to meet our baby's needs better. This is, of course, all about co-regulation. Your baby literally does not have the brain hardware to regulate themselves yet. So they borrow your brain, they borrow your limbic system, which means your limbic system needs to be working at least sort of well to be able to do that. And the way to do that is to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. If you're exhausted, it matters to solve that piece. It is okay to ask for help, whether that's a sleep coach, a therapist, a neighbor, a friend, a spouse, a family member. It is okay to shift responsibilities, to reevaluate what is on your plate so that you can actually show up moving towards the kind of parent that you want to be. And it's also okay to cry in the shower, to text a friend and dump. Dumping out is great as long as you pick the friend that is able to hold that space for you. You need someone that's going to be able to hold those feelings. Another story I wanted to share is I had a client share with me that the support that I give, and I think a lot of holistic coaches, particularly those who are also therapists, do, is more akin to sleep coaching plus therapy. And I think this speaks to the importance that although the reason families come to me is because sleep is feeling atrociously difficult and they want sleep to feel better, that half of that equation is how you're feeling. Half of that equation is how you're managing your day, what pieces could be put into place to make meal times easier, to make daycare drop-offs easier, to make all the other pieces that allow you to get to bedtime, that cherry on top of the day, that last moment of connection before sleep, to make it easier. It's also worth pointing out, too, that when you are distressed or anxious or worried about sleep, and your baby is waking up often in the middle of the night or for long stretches with split nights, 2 a.m. can feel like a pretty dark time, literally and figuratively. It can feel at 2 a.m. like the world is ending, that this is unmanageable. You are at your wit's end. It can feel like it will never get better. Our brains really trick us into thinking in the deepest, darkest time of the night, again, literally and figuratively, that this is the way it's always going to be and that it's unbearable. But by 8 a.m., when your baby is waking up and smiling and giggling, or if you've got a toddler in bed with you, they're like opening up your eyelids or twirling your hair, that sunshine coming in the window can make the day feel beautiful and manageable. And you look back at that 2 a.m. period and think, oh, that felt atrocious, but it doesn't feel like the world is ending right now. It actually feels okay. I want you to pay attention when you are feeling more balanced during the day, when that sun is shining, when you have a smile behind your eyes. Think about what is the self-talk or the dialogue that you have going on in your head at moments like that, because that may be the ticket to use at night at 2 a.m. when things are hard, when your brain is tricking you into thinking this is unsustainable, which it may be unsustainable, but unbearable and will never end. Because if you can use what your brain is telling you during a positive moment at one of the hardest and darkest moments, it can really help you remember that once the sun comes up and the day starts, things will feel different. In terms of this support too, to explore this a little more, I had a client recently tell me, and I know they are not the only ones, that they felt embarrassed because they felt they should be able to do this without support. We are forgetting that we have a very long history, human history of communities that support one another, built right into the fabric of how things work. I know for many of us, we don't live near family anymore. We're working long hours. There's long drives to access daycare. If your child is going to daycare, there's less support overall, and we often don't know our neighbors. And so our network of community is much smaller. We're not built to do this alone. And so whether it is a neighbor, a friend, or a therapist or a sleep coach to support you, you weren't meant to do this alone. So the feeling of being embarrassed that somehow you should have this figured out, even if it's your second or third baby, that's just hogwash. And I want you to pretend that's written on a whiteboard and you're erasing it, because the idea that we would feel embarrassed and carry the burden of feeling like we don't deserve support when at the same time we know we're not managing well and we need the support. Gosh, what a conflict, what a turmoil going on inside your head, right? I think it is so important to pause and realize that connection and support are what make the tough times more manageable and allow us to move through to where it feels like the sun is shining and we're able to manage better. So I want to recap these 3 points. And I do hope you're picturing sitting across from me with a tea. Right now, I've got some protein powder within a protein shake with espresso in it. That's been my drink of choice lately. It almost tastes like a nice sweet latte. I don't tend to like sweet drinks from Starbucks, but I imagine this is what a macchiato tastes like. It's salted caramel protein powder. Blend it all up, and then that espresso, that nice shot of espresso to get the sun shining in my life this morning. So let's do a quick recap. First is your baby is not broken, and no, you did not break their sleep. Anything that is going on with sleep right now, if you start with looking at it through the lens of sleep development and you break that pattern of thinking that A always leads to B, you'll see that things are unfolding developmentally. That doesn't mean they don't need support, but it means that things will unfold, and understanding how that works is going to make things easier. The second point is you can do this your own way, figuring out how you're going to use what you know and what you feel to create something that works best for you. A lot of the time when I'm talking to families, we're talking about sleep and then moving well beyond sleep to other issues that make life more manageable. And I think that is really important to know that if sleep is the real pain point, if it's the painful part, it doesn't mean that all the solutions are only related to sleep. And so figuring out ways to curate your own life to create something that's manageable at this stage in your parenting is helpful. And that last step is you absolutely deserve support. In one way or another, you were never meant to do this alone. And when you have the right support, those deepest, darkest, most difficult moments of parenting become easier and more manageable. Getting help is normal. Google is not always the help that you think it will be. In fact, I plan on doing an episode at some point on using AI to find answers to sleep challenges. I've been looking at what ChatGPT has been giving me with questions, and the more I see the lack of nuance and that it's almost answering the way that you want instead of actually giving you a broad sense of what your options are. I think ChatGPT has a role. What that role is, I'm still figuring out, because I think there's a big gap there in figuring out how to give that nuanced, tailored support that fits best with your baby and your family. Getting help is normal. I want to emphasize that again. Look around for the helpers. I always think of Fred Rogers from, oh my gosh, the name of his show is escaping me, but Fred Rogers has said, look for the helpers. When you're in distress or there's a problem, there's always somebody around. Look around for those helpers. They may come from unexpected corners too when you start looking. I'll finish by saying, even at the toughest moments, you are enough. You're learning about sleep, you're learning about development, you're learning about who your baby is and who you are. Your baby is constantly learning, growing, and developing. It's quite the ride. It's not like we have a textbook to follow. There's no answer key at the back. We are going in this a little bit blind and ignorant. And again, that's where the support can come in to even simply provide perspective and nuance to what's happening. I've had some clients for whom sleep is actually going well, but they don't feel very confident about how it's going. They want to make sure they're putting things in place that don't cause problems down the road. Usually that's a worry that actually won't ever really come to fruition, because if you're thinking about it, it means you're looking for ways to make this work best for your baby anyway. But that support, even if sleep is going well, can really make a difference to how you feel you're showing up as a parent. I invite you to reach out to me across the table with your tea. Let me know which of these 3 points for you really resonated? Which one do you struggle with the most? I'd love to hear from you. You can always email me. My email will be in the show notes. I love hearing from listeners, and I would love to hear from you. Until the next episode, I hope you get some restorative sleep and that you feel good about what you are already doing to support your baby's sleep. Bye for now. Thank you for joining me on this episode. I do hope that you found the information and perspectives in this podcast episode helpful to you as you navigate your baby's sleep development. Of course, this podcast provides general information and it isn't tailored to your family's reality or the specific needs of your baby. If you're concerned about your baby's sleep or health, be sure to reach out to your healthcare provider. If you're feeling exhausted and overwhelmed and you need a place to feel nurtured and reassured, you can find me on Instagram at familysleep.ca. Until next episode, look for the connections that support you and your baby.